Hello everybody, it's Rolly from Rolly Max Music, back with episode 2 of our series of videos containing helpful hints and tips on how to play various instruments, how to get the most out of your technique is mainly what we're going to be covering in this series. Before we get any further, I'd like to give a huge shout out, there we go, to the Willow Ridge Community Association for helping us out, helping us produce these videos for you. Hopefully you're going to enjoy them and gain some helpful insights on some of the instruments that we teach here at Rolly Max Music. And of course, check out the community, check out the website, and they're on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, and probably a few other social media. So check out some of the other programs that are offered here in the community. Now, fortunately, we're able to extend a lot of these programs, including music, to everybody, wherever you might be in the world. So hello, wherever you're watching from. And we've been happy to be located here in the beautiful Willow Ridge Community Hall for, say it's going on 10 years now. So we're shooting these videos from our studio here in the hall, and hopefully someday soon this COVID epidemic will be done with and you'll be able to come back here to have one-on-one lessons. But in the meantime, we're offering lessons online in all the instruments that we teach, in piano and keyboard, voice, bass guitar, ukulele, drums, and the instrument that we're going to be featuring today, the guitar. So give us a shout, number's right there, and we can help you further advance your musical education. So until you can book some lessons, I'm going to give you a few helpful hints and tips to get you going. Maybe you've tried to play the guitar before, maybe you're just starting out and you need a little bit of advice to get you going. So one of the things about guitar is that the hands are interdependent. So what that means is that each hand performs a different function and they work together to create the sound. So the left hand frets the notes, so we determine what the pitches are by where we put our fingers on the various frets. In the right hand, we strum or pick to determine when the notes are sounded. So each hand has its own distinct function, as opposed to the keyboard, where both hands can do exactly the same thing. So the division of labor is a little bit different on the piano. We call that independent hands. It's been a long day. Anyways, so getting back to what we're doing on guitar here, I'm going to go over some right hand techniques for you first. And the three main styles or categories of techniques in the right hand on the guitar are picking, strumming, and fingerstyle. So using a pick, when we're picking, that just means that we're playing one string at a time. And when we're strumming, that means that we're moving the pick through all 6 strings. And picking and strumming can also be performed without a pick. We can pick with the fingers, or with the thumb, or both. And of course, strumming can also be performed with the right hand without a pick. So let's go a little bit deeper into all of these techniques. The pick is by far the most common way to play the guitar with the right hand, and it probably because it produces a very clear, distinct tone, as opposed to with the thumb or the fingers are a lot more muted sounding, right? Now the way to hold the pick, we're going to actually reference the first video in the series when I talked about the golden rule of technique, which is take the easiest way out all the time. And how we accomplish that is we keep the hands and fingers totally relaxed as much as possible. That way the fingers are able to move the most efficiently, the quickest, and just we get the most dexterity out of them. So if we take our relaxed hand shape from last video, and we notice that the thumb is kind of across from the fingers here, we're going to put the pick in between the thumb and the index finger. Now, the pick is triangular shaped. That shows up best against that wall. All we're doing with the thumb is we're taking that big triangle and turning it into a little triangle like this. And then we put the finger on the other side so we're not obscuring that little part of the triangle. And this allows us to run the pick through the strings and get a better angle here. And that way the pick striking the strings produces the vibration and produces the sound. Now, in picking, what we have to remember is to brace the hand. That is very important, because picking by definition, like I explained a couple minutes ago, is when we're playing just one string at a time. Now, if you watched, my wrist was in contact with the guitar at all times. If we compare it to writing, it's just like most of you write probably with your wrist on the page like that, and that way you can move your hand very rapidly but still have a high degree of control over it. If, on the other hand, you have your wrist in the air and you try writing, it's going to be really messy. And, just like a kindergarten child, and that's why their writing is like that, because they haven't learned to put the wrist down yet. So that's how we keep the pick on one string or another, as opposed to try to pick one string very rapidly with the hand in midair. Just going to go all over the place. But now we're going to steady it, and now we can do any kind of speed picking that we like, and the pick will remain on the string we want it to. For strumming, the movement comes more from the wrist, and we're going to reference our relaxed hand shape once again. So you notice how my hand is falling off my wrist completely, and the movement we're going to do is just like shaking water off of your hand, like this. So the way you get your hand in position is, of course, the pick is being held like we just found out a few minutes ago, and I'm just letting my hand fall off my wrist, and then you move your arm so that the pick is right underneath the very bottom string, the first string, and I'll just fret a chord here on my left hand, and then just turning the wrist, we get the pick up to the top. Now we're ready to go. So the down strum is really easy. You just let gravity do it. You just let go of your wrist muscles and the pick goes through the strings. The up strum, you have to twist your wrist, but don't move the arm, okay? It's just from the wrist, because we do want the easiest possible way. So we go back and forth, gravity, twist the wrist up, gravity up, down, up. And as long as the right hand is moving down and up at a steady rate, your rhythm will be perfectly on time. Now, the reason we don't want to move the whole arm is twofold. First of all, the forearm part of the arm and the hand together weigh quite a bit more than just the hand. So why move all that weight when you only have to move this weight? Secondly, the elbow is a hinge. It only moves one way or the other, so it has limited motion capabilities, whereas the wrist is a swivel, so it moves in every direction. So it's far easier to move it from the wrist than doing it from the arm. And one of my favorite examples to use is if you've ever watched Grand Ole Opry, usually the country singer comes on and they're playing a guitar, because we all know it's cool to have a guitar if you're a country singer, and usually they're just giving her from the whole arm, from the elbow. And what do they do after the first song? Take off the guitar, hand it to somebody, and hey y'all, how you doing? Good, you could make it here tonight. And they go and do the rest of the show without the guitar because they're dead tired. Meanwhile, if you look over either shoulder, either the right shoulder or the left shoulder, the real guitar player is standing there in the background with their wrist moving. Okay, so without the pick, we're doing exactly the same thing on the strum. So the only thing is different is that the pick is missing. So that's all personal preference. Some guitar players prefer to use a pick all the time, and others never use a pick, even when they're picking or doing a single note type of playing with the right hand. So, for example, what a lot of players do is they play, I call it bass player style, because bass players use the index and middle fingers of the right hand to play, and we're plucking the strings like that, and we can use that to play melodies just like we would with the pick. Or sometimes we're going to use a combination of the thumb and fingers, especially if we're doing anything a little bit faster. So the idea is to find something that's comfortable and works for you. And just remember, take the easiest way out all the time, which means keep the hand as relaxed as you possibly can. And then the other obvious thing that we do with the right hand, anytime we're not using a pick, it's called finger style, by the way. But usually when we think of the word or the term finger style, what it refers to is that style of guitar where we're still doing the chords. However, instead of strumming them, we are going to play them. We're going to pluck the strings one at a time. And so there's a coordination going on between the thumb, the index, and middle fingers. So it sounds like this. So when you're doing finger style this way, it's important to assign each finger a particular task. And in the most popular styles, I was just performing a little bit of the intro for a song by Kansas called Dust in the Wind. It became popular in the mid-70s. And this style was quite popular back then. Fleetwood Mac had a song with the same kind of chords. Just a little bit different picking pattern. So, very popular style, but if you notice in both songs, what the thumb is doing, regardless of the chord we're playing, we're going back and forth between the root string and the next string. So in the case of these chords, C, B/B, or G/B, and A minor, our root is always on the 5th string, so we're going back and forth between the 5th and 4th strings. And then we fill in what we want for other notes with the index and middle fingers. And generally the index and middle fingers will have their own strings as well. So the index finger in this case is assigned to the 3rd string, the middle finger assigned to the 2nd string. And then when we play Dust in the Wind, what we're doing is we're playing the thumb and the middle finger, then thumb on the other string, index finger on its note, then thumb, then middle. So that's the pattern. And then we just change the left hand to get the melody with the chords. Now, just before we wrap it up, I'd like to go over the most overlooked technique this is a left-hand technique, the most overlooked technique on the guitar, and that's muting. If you ask any sound technician, one of their biggest pet peeves is when a guitar player comes up and plays, and they're playing otherwise well, but they don't mute the extra strings with their thumb in the left hand. So you people who have been playing guitar for a while know that an A minor chord, for instance, doesn't have the 6th string in it. We're supposed to go just from the 5th string down to the 1st, right? But if you don't mute the 6th string, what happens is it also gets into the chord, muddying it up considerably. So I'm just going to play a quick chord progression in 2 different ways, and you'll see what I mean right away. So I'm going to play it the right way first while muting. Now I'm going to play it without muting. So you may have noticed that the only chord that sounded decent was the E minor, because if you look at the chord chart for E minor, all 6 strings are in it. And the one that sounded the worst was the D, because according to the chord charts, our strings that are involved are the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. And so your 5th and 6th strings are supposed to be muted. If we don't mute them, then we get those extra bass notes. So the technique is really, really simple, and it may take some practice if you're used to having your thumb like back here or way down low like a classical guitarist. But all you need to do is you're grabbing the neck of your guitar just like a baseball bat or a hockey stick, doesn't matter if you shoot left or right, and you're letting the thumb come around and block the top 1 or 2 strings. So now your wrist can get as rowdy as you like, and you won't get that washout cluster of bass notes in there. Okay, that's all the time we have for this week, but keep watching. Roughly every week or 2 I'll be releasing new videos, and we're going to cover some of the other instruments. And if any of you have any suggestions on techniques or instruments you'd like to see covered in this series, then just contact us through our YouTube channel, or you can text me on that phone number there, or drop us an email, rollymaxmusic@gmail.com. And until next time, happy playing.